Welcome to today's video, guys. We're gonna be digging through so many brushes. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. I'm looking at them all going, wow, there's literally something for every part of your face, your eyes, you know, whether you use cream products, powder products, we got everything here. This is from Smashbox. I got a sneak preview, and I have been playing around with these brushes for several weeks now, even though they did launch at Ulta exclusively about a week ago. I believe they are launching tomorrow at Sephora and then everywhere else a week from now. These brushes are very unique. That's what caught my attention. There are some elements on here that I feel already are very Tati approved because they go hand in hand with a few techniques that I talk about on my channel as far as application. So we're gonna get into all of the detail and I'm gonna share which ones are my favorites and all of that good stuff. Let's start with the face. Okay, this is called the Sheer Foundation Brush. Let me break the rules like the moment I sit down and do this video because I actually really enjoy using this brush for powder. This is a giant brush. I mean, look at how it's just covering up my entire eye. So what I am loving using this for is actually the Velvetizer from Urban Decay. Now I go straight into this very powdery powder that normally would fluff everywhere, but this brush will grab all of that and you can literally press it into the skin and then kind of whisk away any of the excess. This would also be excellent for kicking off bake. It is just a beautifully shaped brush. It has a nice little triangular tip here, and I am obsessed with this. I've even used it on the body for highlight. I just love how large it is, but it's not your typical dome large brush. So this is something really different. It stood out to me in a major way. I know that literally on the handle it says Sheer Foundation, so you could use this with a tinted moisturizer, a liquid foundation, and get a nice result. The bristles on here are synthetic. However, it's the craziest thing because you look at the bristles on these brushes, they do not look or feel like synthetic bristles. They're like a dupe of a natural hair. I have never seen a hair on a brush come this close to a natural hair feel and cut and everything like that. We'll go over that a little bit more. Okay, so this one is dirty because why? I used it today to put on my foundation. I have been into stick foundation again. It's kind of a thing. I feel like it gives me a lot of coverage. It doesn't break apart. I'm in the heat. I feel like it just sits on my skin a little bit better right now, and I'm having a moment with everything that comes in a stick. So I am back into using a buffing motion and a brush like this. This is called the Full Coverage Foundation Brush, and I like that on the actual handle itself, it does say full and fullest. So you're gonna get full coverage no matter where you hold this brush, but it does kind of tell you and teaches you to, you know, hold the brush down here if you wanna get a little less pressure, not as full of coverage, and to grab the brush up here for more coverage. That's gonna be true whether you are applying foundation, powder, eyeshadow. Where you grip the handle is really important, and I like that they give you enough of a handle to use it the way you want to depending on coverage and blend. They do have other foundation brushes, and what's interesting is when you get into some of these brushes, like the stippling foundation brush, this has a nice actual slope right here where you can grip onto it. So it kind of tells you where exactly to grip, which I think is so unique. I've never seen this on any other brush. I think it's really cool. I prefer this. Why? Because I'm a full coverage kind of gal and I don't like a stippling motion. I like more of a buffing motion. So you have to think about what your approach is with makeup and what will work best for you. But these bristles on here are so nice. Moving on, they have a powder foundation brush. It says full, it says sheer, it reminds you where to grab. And this is a very interesting brush because it kind of has that fanned out cut on the perimeter that is like a stippling brush, and it is more dense in the center. I don't really use powder foundation. It's not my thing. I'm liquid, but this I feel would pick up foundation really nicely because it has that fluff on the perimeter and it's so nicely densely packed in the center that you're gonna get a really nice blend and be able to actually get coverage out of your powder foundation if that's your jam. Then they do also have a blurring foundation brush. This one I have used with contour to kind of lightly blend it out depending on which type of contour I am using, and it's a nice brush, but it's not my everyday go-to. Why? Because I want a mask on my face, and I just am obsessed with this brush. It also has like a nice slant that you almost don't really see unless you're holding it right in front of your face, but it's just a beautiful foundation brush, buildable foundation brush. See, they have like a different brush for everybody's need. You want buildable, full, you want sheer, you want powder, like they have it covered for you. You're good. Now this kind of a brush, I do actually enjoy putting on liquid primers. If I am doing my Milk of Magnesia trick, if I'm using a primer that has a little more slip to it, and I actually want to paint the face, I will go for a brush like this. Again, the bristles are really nice. It's very well made. It's packed just right without being overly packed. And I'm not seeing any fraying on the brush whatsoever. Really nice. We have a blurring concealer. I actually really enjoy this. I do not like to use brushes for concealer. I usually prefer to use my fingertips or a sponge, but I do have to say with something that is more liquidy, not to hurt Shape Tape. If you're using something a little more liquidy, buffing and blending right under the eye, this works so well. I love it. I would use this if I was like going back into my other life and actually putting my kit together and doing makeup. This is something that I would reach for a person that doesn't want that highlighted look underneath the eye, that wants something more natural, because it really will buff and blend, and it's a beautiful brush. This is your classic shape for packing on concealer. I tend to use this kind of a brush more on the actual eyelid than I do concealer, because again, I like a sponge or my fingertips for underneath my eyes. So this is nothing I would reach for a ton, but it is nice that of course they have this within their massive launch of brushes, because it's not like I'm gonna use 30 brushes every day, and nor are you gonna use 30 brushes every day, but the options are definitely there. This one is so cool. Look at the point. It has a nice triangle tip. This is going to be great for concealing imperfections. If you have a blemish, if you want to cover up, like for me, I don't always cover this guy up, but let's say that I wanted to, just for kicks, let's say I actually care. I do care, it's just one extra step that I usually don't do. Okay, so I could go into my concealer and I'm grabbing such a tiny amount on the tip, which when you do concealer on the face, let me give you an example. You don't want this one necessarily, because I would end up packing so much concealer on that spot that I would be blending out concealer where I don't need concealing. And the more minimal you can make your concealing, the more natural it will look. It won't just look like you have polka dots on your face trying to conceal a situation, essentially making it look even worse. Do you know what I'm saying? So this pinpoint tip makes it very, very easy for you to go in there and actually paint on top of the area that you are trying to conceal, which I think is fantastic. Oh my gosh, and it grabs the right amount of product and just makes the situation look very natural. And this is perfect if you have acne, if you have hyperpigmentation, if you do a lot of spot concealing on the face. I think you would absolutely love this brush. I do think they're priced very fairly. This large one is $40. Everything else I am showing you is less than $40. It's more in the $30 to $22 range. So I think that's very nicely priced for the quality, the craftsmanship, the fact that you won't have fraying or bristles falling out, and just the way that it's synthetic but it feels like a traditional non-synthetic brush is really different. So I think the pricing is very good. We have something that's called an angled powder brush. This is a godsend. This is exactly what I have wanted for so long. You guys know I love setting my under eye area with a different powder than my face. I like to brighten it up. So what I have been loving about this brush is that I can go into my powder flat, because it has that sloped kind of angled tip. I can knock off the excess, and I can actually tuck this underneath the eye and use dabbing motions and set my concealer freaking perfectly. You can also take this on the sides and the nose because it has that harsh edge right here. Grab a little more powder, go in there at an angle. I love this brush. This is the sheer powder brush. Now this one you might look at and go, what? Like, because it looks kind of open and not very dense, but let me tell you, the way that this picks up product and just disperses it without dragging or building inappropriately by grabbing on certain areas, just putting too much product everywhere, when your makeup's inappropriate. But you know what I mean? Like there are some brushes that are just too much. Like you're going in with too much and then you end up looking muddy. You have cake problems. Things aren't even. This is going to be something that really lightly gets powder dispersed everywhere gorgeously. Now, the one thing that I think is missing in this collection, if I can say, is I would like a bronzer brush. They don't have a bronzer brush, dedicated bronzer brush. I think they need that, and then I would be a happy camper. But this one for powder everywhere is gorgeous. Let's talk about the 4 blush brushes that they came out with, because again, there's something for everyone here. This looks almost like it would be a blurring concealer brush, but it's a little bit bigger. And the nice thing is, when you're going in to place that cream blush, it's gonna give you the right amount of space to stipple this on and then use circular motions, and it's not too giant. If you have a brush that is a lot bigger, you're just gonna get product too wide on the apple of the cheek, especially when you're working with cream blushes. You wanna have a less is more approach and build instead of start out with a ton of product everywhere. So I think the shape of this one is really nice. Then they do have a buildable cheek. Now this is the same thing. I saw this and I was like, no, what is this? Like, this is garbage. That was my first impression. Good thing I actually used it and tried it out because I was so wrong. Now I'm gonna show you guys, if I go into one of my favorite blushes right here, this is Rosy Outlook. I'm gonna tap off the excess, I'm gonna smile, and I am just going to build up the color on the apples of the cheeks. This gives you the most goof-proof application. It does not drag the color anywhere. It gives you the color just dispersed the way that you want it to, the way it looks like a beautiful streak-free flush. The way these bristles are shaped and the way it is a little bit looser and not so dense, and it has that nice tapered point, you are able to just kind of get those bristles everywhere on the apple of the cheek, and it just lays down the color so perfectly. This one is in my top 5, which is hilarious because when I first looked at this whole collection, I was like, what? Then we have the angled blush. This is more for the person that wants to kind of use their blush kind of on top of their contour. That's not always my thing. I don't want to overly sharpen up my cheekbones. They're pretty sharp to begin with. So I actually am preferring using something like this over the angle, but this is really nice if you like that technique. Now they do also have your more traditional precise blush, which you can kind of go on the apple and pull back. Also not really my jam right now, but it is a nice brush. And the other thing that you'll notice is how these are cut. They're cut in such a unique way where it's not just like domed and rounded. It actually makes sense how you're gonna lay this down on the cheek and the way you want each bristle working for you to build up that color and lay down that color. Then we have this really cool highlighter. I'm gonna show you how awesome this is because it's not what I would normally reach for to highlight, but again, it has that slope, that slant, but it does have space in between the bristles where it almost looks like a stippling brush. Now this, I'm gonna go into my highlighter and I'm just going to precisely be able to lay that down. It's not getting below here. It's not getting up here. It is giving me precision. So I can go down the bridge of the nose, I can go back over here, and it literally hugs my cheekbone. Kind of like when you see a liquid lip doe foot applicator that has that seated cushion, it almost has a slant to it. That's what these brushes remind me of. And it's so freaking different. They do have a fan brush, which is something we've all seen. It's nice, but I think the one to really get excited about is the detailed one. Okay, let's talk about eyes. We got a lot of eye brushes here. Okay, the first thing we're gonna talk about is the all over shadow. This is gonna be something you just fluff color everywhere. Sometimes I like doing this before I put on any eyeshadow so that there's no skipping, no, weird blending issues. And this is nice just to kind of quickly get that color everywhere. It's a good brush. The all over coverage shadow. I think this is, again, great for the lid, really good for blending. A nice brush. This crease brush is bomb. So this one, if you're going in directly into that crease, It's nice and tapered. It gives you a lot of control. You can blend out any shadow with this brush. Now you see it's really, really tiny at the bottom and it just fluffs out. It has a nice shape. It is slightly cut and tapered and pointed at the top, and you can just really get in that crease just so nicely. Something so weird. Look at this. Would you look at this and be like, what is that for? Because I don't even know. I'll be honest, I've actually like cleaned up underneath the eye when glitter falls everywhere. Like this side of that is kind of firm and it's good for that. But what this is actually intended for is to push up your lashes. You can actually grab mascara with this and kind of coat and paint your lashes. It's a really interesting brush. You can use this in the brows as well. You have a spoolie on one side where you can comb through your brows, you can comb through the lashes, and I feel like this is the bargain way to go. The quality on this is amazing. I was gonna do a WTF on this brush right here from Claudio Rias, because this was sold just to apply mascara on the lashes. I thought it was kind of weird. And I wanna say this was like $65 or $70. This one is $22. Such a great deal for such a unique brush. We have a slanted eyeliner brush. This is so good for that annoying inner corner. When you're lining here and you feel like you get too much product high up, this is going to allow you to go straight in there and line that inner corner perfectly. I love it. Then we have an awesome angled brow brush. This is the same brush, I feel it is, that I fell in love with many, many years ago. It just has a nice amount of width without it being too wide and too hard, and it just helps you to fill your brows in really fast, effectively. You can use powder with this, you can use pomades. It's a great brush. Then we have little under eye smudgy kind of things. This is the smoky shadow. You could use this on the lash line to smoke out the upper lid, but I actually love using this underneath and really running it back and forth and smudging out whatever shades I have underneath my eye. It just gets the job done really, really fast. I don't really use lip brushes that much, but if you love customizing your own color, or if you're a makeup artist, this is a very essential tool to have in your kit. So of course they have a lip brush in this massive giant collection. And then we have a few more detailed brushes. We have a precision smudger. So if you wanted to do a really intense smokiness underneath the eye or on the lid, you could go in first with this smaller smudger and then go on top with the larger one and really buff and blend things out. So this is just a nice, tiny, itty bitty, beautiful little smudger. This also works really, really well if you want to get very, very precise on the inner corner of the eye. You can do that. It will take care of all the work for you. You're not going to get highlight where you don't want it. It will just place it exactly in the inner corner. So I love using this brush for both. Then we have the Precision Brow and Liner. Now, if you're someone that likes to do those fine strokes with brow pomade, you might enjoy this for that. I actually prefer the other brush for my brows, but this one for liner, do you even see how thin and little itty bitty but firm this tip is? You can get the perfect line. And I also love this for setting my liner. If I use a liner, you know, out of a tube, I actually like to go back in with a black shadow to set whatever wet product I'm using, and this works fabulous for that. Then we have this guy right here, the Contour Shadow. This is gonna be amazing for that outer edge to kind of really buff, go down on the lid, buff up. You could take this through the crease, but I actually really like this on the outer edge work. It's just shaped in a way where it just fluffs color in the right area without getting it everywhere, so you have a very controlled application. I almost forgot a face brush in the mix. He was like off to the side, kind of standing there by himself. Look at this kabuki brush. It looks almost like it's damaged because the shape has, again, that kind of seated type of a slanted slope thing, but you would look at this and go, that's weird. Look at how it hugs my jaw. Look at that. Do you see that? So this is gonna hug onto any of the curves on your face. You could use this with any mineral makeup, powder foundation. You could blend out wet foundation with it. What I like doing with kabuki brushes actually is I sit them on my desk, and then throughout the day, if I need to blend out anything that's gone crazy with my makeup, maybe I touched my face weird, got something on my face, things are breaking apart, whatever happens, you know, every day is a little bit different. I will take something like this and lightly be able to rebuff everything. So this is a great tool to have on hand, and I think the shape on this is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's just so different. So they even have a little kabuki brush. All right, so that was literally almost 30 brushes, I think, a huge expansive collection. And I love that Smashbox has everything A to Z and that they brought out not just your typical brush collection, but they put in different things like the grip holders, how they blended the synthetics, how they cut and shape the brushes. They brought out brushes that really you don't see in every single collection. So I love that as well. And if you guys enjoyed me talking about makeup brushes, because you know tools are important too, please give this video a thumbs up. I will be leaving below the 5 favorites in the description box because I know this was kind of overwhelming, but I hope you found it helpful. And again, these will be available in stores, which is another reason I like talking about brushes like this when they launch, because you know, sometimes you want to touch and feel and try and not just go in blind ordering online. So there you have it. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this and that you're having a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you all in my next video. Mwah.